This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. A made no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This isn't A game, better bring your A game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. A made no rain from the track when we unite.
Hey now, it's the Mike and JD show, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and I'm joined as always by JD by Godoliva. How you doing, JD?
Dude, I am in a really good mood today. So I had my final for my grad school course, turned that in. I feel decent about it. I feel as good as I can. We had wrestling meet today. The kids stepped up. We had all pins.
Nice.
Pinned the entire team. Most of them were in the first period. It was awesome. We had my broadcast program out there covering it, and they did not have any teachers with them tonight. So the kids were flying solo, and from what I'm told, they nailed it. So I'm in a fantastic mood. And you son of a bitch, are going to make me talk about pro wrestling and be miserable for the next hour. So thanks.
How could you be miserable? There's so much stuff going on. It could potentially end up being depressing, but I don't think we're there yet. I think we're okay. I don't think the sky is falling just yet, and we'll get into that here in a sec. But
I think the problem is people have like this, and I don't like making light of the term PTSD, especially when I'm on the horn here with a veteran, but that's, the closest thing I can relate it to with some of these fans, where they're like, they're Chicken Little, basically, right? The sky is falling. Everything is awful. Nothing is going to work. And I'm one of them. So
dude, yeah, you're talking about me right now. That's exactly who you're talking about. I told you earlier in our group chat, I was like, I'm having flashbacks of 2001 with all the news that's going on. So let's get into it. We'll go ahead and start the show off hot. Yeah, John Muse, it's not 2001. We could be at 2001 in a hurry if things go the way they might look like they're going. And it's a bit sketchy. So WWE and Warner Brothers Discovery are currently in negotiations to bring Raw to one of the WBD networks. They had a meeting yesterday, I guess. Dave Meltzer reported, and I believe so did Mike Johnson. I want to make sure I get the names right, but I have the Dave Meltzer report up here. It says Mark Shapiro, along with Nick Khan and Paul Levesque, had a meeting with WBD on Monday morning. One report they had was that Punk was a major part of the pitch with the idea that he'd be a regular on the Raw brand. The report that included pushing his merchandise sales and social media views along with his ratings. It said that obviously the situation is back wide open. This greatly affects AEW, which has also been in talks with Warner Brothers on a number of deals besides just television rights renewals, including potential streaming. WBD gets a cut of AEW streaming pay-per-view buys through Bleacher Report. So basically, this whole thing was apparently dead back in October, and WWE signing CM Punk has kicked that door wide open, and they are actively in negotiations to bring WWE Raw to one of the Warner properties.
where do we want to tackle this?
JD, you're muted.
I am. I'm not. Can you hear me? Hang on.
Hold on. Let me try. Oh, I can't unmute you. Oh wait. Apparently it's me.
Oh, you muted me, you son of a bitch. I'm back.
Just
I
go.
can hear it. All right, whatever. So, welcome to the Mike and JD show, where we're idiots. So, there's two ways we can look at this, right? There's the pragmatic way, and there's the doom poster. And I'm going to try to be pragmatic at first. Punk delivered some good ratings for WWE, right, so far. However, I will say they aren't blow away, right? Dave tempered everybody. He's like, he brought up a good point. He's like, you know what? These weren't the two highest rate. Like they were two NFL games, but they weren't like blow away NFL games. They were like normal NFL games. And Punk's quarter delivered. I get why Zaslav, because again, we all made a lot of people in our circles made fun of the whole one Bill Phil thing. Maybe he really did. Maybe that is a reality.
Yeah.
WWE signed with the CW. They have not asked for exclusivity. UFC is signed with ESPN, as is PFL. They have not asked for exclusivity. We are under the assumption that WWE will either ask for exclusivity or Warner will just cancel them outright. That isn't necessarily true, right? The idea is, well, what if why would they want two wrestling programs? Well, it's nice to cover your ass in case you lose the NFL or the NBA, excuse me. Right?
Yeah.
Now let's be a doom poster. Let's be a doom poster. It's fucking over. It's fucking over, man. Tony Khan blew it. He started listening to Jimmy Jacobs at the wrong fucking time, and Pat Buck with his dumbass, Northeast Ultimo WWE inspired bullshit, and things got ugly at the worst possible time. And Jack Perry had to make a fucking joke, and here we are. That's the doom poster. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I'm just talking about this depresses me because I do have flashbacks to 2001, and this kind of sucks. I mean, we're assuming that WBD is just gonna get it outright. In reality, if they don't, if WWE were to turn down a higher offer, they would probably have issues with their shareholders.
Yeah. They're not going to take a lesser offer from Warner Brothers just to be petty, and piss off Tony Khan. It doesn't work like that, especially when you're a publicly traded company. That would just piss off their shareholders. Like, they would legit get sued if that came out, that they took a lesser deal just to mess with somebody else. Not sued from AEW, which they could end up, but sued by their shareholders. Which they have lawsuits all the time. That absolutely could happen.
They're in a lawsuit right now with their shareholders because there's the idea that because remember the merger, no actual money changed hands. Right, like I have this argument with people like, oh, they sold their company for no, they didn't sell anything. No actual dollars and cents changed hands on the merger. And there's people there that are suing because of that, because of the rumored Saudi deal was out there, and that would have been better for shareholders theoretically. So, yeah, if you take a lesser deal, and quite frankly, you don't want to take a lesser deal for WWE because you did. Let's be honest, WWE is so good at spinning the machine. They got canceled this year. Yeah. Their highest rated show got canceled, and no one talks about that. Everyone's, well, they're getting more money to go to USA because Fox said we don't want this. Mm-hmm. Fox said we're done with this in a year. Like, they got canceled, and nobody talks about that. Like, it's just the way that Nick Khan in the media has insulated the media to what he thinks we should be talking about is staggering. I don't know.
He really is the best out there. Honestly, like he is probably he's the most valuable hire the WWE's ever made. Like,
oh yeah,
and it's not even close. There's not a close second to. I know there's certain wrestlers that made Vince a lot of. Nobody's made money the way that Nick Khan has made money. No one's worked the media the way that Nick Khan has worked the media. He's got Forbes magazine tweeting out nonsense on his behalf. The once respected publication for Wall Street and Forbes magazine, just tweeting out nonsense on his behalf. He's got a whole bunch of minions that sends emails to all these different journalists in quotations to put out PR on their behalf, and they fall for it. And sometimes they pass it off as legitimate stories when really it's just a copy and paste with a minor tweak here and there of a PR spin report that they're just pushing out. That's where those damn the Fast Nationals, nobody had ever heard of Fast Nationals before, right? Nope. Until Friday Night SmackDown and Rampage were on at this, around the same time. And next thing you know, all of a sudden we're getting Fast Nationals when usually we'd get the Friday ratings, we wouldn't get those till Monday. We're getting those Saturday morning, and it's because he's got his minions pushing them out to journalists, pushing these essentially fake numbers out. And people that we respect fell for that for a while. They got talked out of doing it for a while.
Respect is an interesting term, Mike, because I don't respect anyone that did that. I had an argument with a former associate of ours who is friends with one of these guys that was pushing this. And I said, this is WWPR bullshit. Why are they doing this? And he said, well, it's news. And then, 6 months later, I brought it up again. He's like, yeah, that guy had to eat crow because of it,
Yeah.
and admitted what they were doing. And I don't want to name people, but if you know Mike and I, you know who we're talking about. So, and I'm like, this is bull. And I get mad about these things because, if I can see the work, why can't you guys see the work? And that's the thing. It's a work. They lost.
Yeah.
The stock tanked. The stock tanked when they signed the SmackDown deal. They expected more. The investors expected more for NXT, right? So they need to hit a big one with this Raw deal. They need to hit a big one. So we just used to the way Vince does things, and I think it's not going to be that here.
Yeah. Yeah. If they hit big on this Raw deal and theoretically, let's just say that it goes to TNT. Let's just say that it goes to TNT and they hit big. At the same time, Warner Brothers decides to not renew their biggest competitor. I mean, that is like a double whammy for WWE right there. That is the biggest swing. And that's like getting your starting quarterback from your division rival, right? In a trade for nothing, right? Or like they release him. It's Brett Favre going to the Minnesota Vikings. Right. I mean, I know he went to the Jets first, but then he comes to the Minnesota Vikings like right after that. It's like, oh wow, you took your biggest rivals, quarterback, and now you're taking them to the NFC Championship game. That's how big that is.
And it faltered after that. It fell apart very, very quickly after that season. So here's a question: if you're Triple H and you're Nick Khan, do you try to put AEW out of business? Is that good for your business to be a monopoly? Because I would argue that it's not. Because the reason, I'll say to the cows come home, a big reason why WWE is popular now is because they got pushed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you think they realize that internally, or do you think they'd want to stab the knife in the heart of AEW and flood the market with I think it's bad for wrestling. I really do. If something bad happens to AEW, I think that's terrible. I know wrestling fans, because they're mutant mouth breathing dipshits, are no matter what side you're on, you're like, when a company dies, you're like, yeah, that's great.
The people that have been predicting AEW's doom from day one are celebrating because they might end up being right about something, and it was really just because the TV rights. It had nothing to do with AEW not performing well, because they're still a very successful company, highly, highly successful startup company. They're in year 4, coming up on 5.
Coming up on 5.
And they're grossing tons of revenue. They're still losing money just because they spent more. But once they're banking on this big TV deal coming, if the TV deal doesn't come, it's like, oh, we made the wrong bet, obviously. But they're betting big on this TV deal that's ultimately going to make them profitable. But yeah, to answer your question, is it a good thing for WWE to put their competition out of business? I think they would see it as good, but I think it would also be the same thing that happened when WCW and ECW went out of business at the same time. Their product is gonna start declining because they're not going to be putting in the same amount of effort, right? And the wrestlers aren't going to be putting in the same amount of effort, and that's really what happened to them. They weren't being pushed, and so the product got stale, and it got stale very quickly. Right. And people hung on for as long as they could. I hung on for a long time. And then ultimately I was like, once I realized that there was so many other shows that I could watch and still scratch that itch, and it was very accessible, I just started accessing those shows, and looking into those. You know what I mean? I didn't leave completely. Now, what happens is when people leave WWE, a lot of times they just don't look at secondary brands or third tier brands. They just don't watch at all, because it's like, if Coca-Cola goes out of business, you might not want to go drink, Sam's Choice Cola, right? You're, that's your favorite soda. You're not going to go pick a different soda. It's kind of,
It's funny you mentioned soda, because Coke and Pepsi don't want to put the other out of business. They understand that, they understand how healthy competition is in the marketplace. There was a story a few years ago floating around that one of Coke's food engineers came to Pepsi and said, "We have the recipe for Coke." And the Pepsi people called the Coke people and say, "Hey man, look, they told the guy got arrested."
Wow.
That's a true story. And because they realize that, 1, it's bad for business. 2, competition in the marketplace is good. The train's coming through. I'm not going to bother muting this week. I think this is bad, but I think Triple H as a wrestler understands that. that wrestling is better now than it's been in the last decade because of AEW. TNA never had the financial backing. They never had the power. The reason why they're still unprofitable is because they pay a bazillion, AEW specifically, they pay a bazillion wrestlers they don't need on roster. There's way too many people on the roster.
Yeah. And we talked about it here last week. And they had, I think it was reported, I might be slightly wrong, but like 140 plus wrestlers on their roster. And then I wish I had the numbers in front of me, but maybe somebody in the chat knows the number off the top of their head, but they were paying just a ridiculous amount annually for talent contracts.
John Muse is in the chat. I'm sure he's got those numbers in front of him somewhere.
Yeah, he's probably got the numbers. But I think another big story here and another big part of this is, and this is something that we've been covering here for weeks, and we've talked about it several times before, but Tony Khan's undying loyalty to Warner Brothers Discovery. And it appears that he has finally had an awakening this week with these meetings taking place on Monday. I'm going to go back to Meltzer's report here. It said Tony Khan has always talked of loyalty to WBD, even saying that in negotiations for his new deal, he would stay with WBD on his next deal, even if another entity offered slightly more money. He also made it clear that after the purchase of Ring of Honor, he would only shop it to WBD stations who didn't bite on it. It was reported by Nick Hausman and confirmed by Tony Khan that CW had expressed interest in Ring of Honor some time back. Khan said that in the past that he could legally sell ROH television rights outside of the WBD family, but out of loyalty would not do so at the time. What's that loyalty getting him now? And now Dave did earlier in that same report did actually speak of the rumor and that I think that you are a firm believer in. I think you're all in on this rumor that Warner Brothers owns a stake in AEW, and which really affected it. But let's say he doesn't own a stake and that he's just being blindly loyal to this entity, and now it's come to bite him in the ass, really. If they end up going with WWE and not re-signing a deal, like at this point, nothing's official. There's no rumored sale happening. It's just negotiations at this point. But man, that's got to sting a little bit, right?
Yeah, it has to. Is Tony Khan this? I was thinking about this the other day. Is Tony Khan really this loyal? Or is this a public face? Like, I get why Warner gave them the chance in that time that since Dynamite has become a show, the merger happened, right? So like, it's not the same company that it was, and the problem is you're dealing with David Zaslav, and you don't know what he's gonna do because he's made a lot of baffling decisions. Steven Spielberg, I think I mentioned this in the show a couple weeks ago. Steven Spielberg led a collection of film people to say stop working with Warner. Stop working with Warner because they don't respect what we do. And it's because like David Zaslav's from Discovery, where he just says we're going to make shows for booger eaters, and that's not what they signed up for. So I get why Tony wanted to kind of be loyal, but how do we know he hasn't had talks with people back channel? I don't think Tony's stupid. I know like the Eric Bischoffs of the world and the Vince Russos, the actual stupid people, to think that he's stupid. Know if he is. Like, I would be very surprised if he hasn't had if people haven't reached out to him, because like Dynamite's in the mud. Dude, they've had consistent ratings for the last like 2 months.
Dynamite's doing great.
Like it really is. It's like it's been, the bloodletting has stopped. It's starting to tick up a little bit actually from where it's been. Like it's now within the rate of cable television. It's not like below the rate of declining cable TV. They had a rough year, but they've really kind of curbed it as we've closed out the year. So why wouldn't you want that on your network? Now, who's left? Now there's plenty of people left. I'm still sure Amazon, Paramount might come talking to them. To be honest with you, wouldn't surprise me if Fox did. Because think about it, Fox didn't want WWE, but the problem with WWE was they weren't getting back the return on their investment with what they spent. You don't have to spend nearly what Fox spent on WWE to get AEW on Friday nights, right? And you'll get half. You'll get half the ratings and pay a quarter of what you paid for
Yeah,
SmackDown.
I think FS1 would be interesting. Fox, Big Fox, they didn't renew their UFC deal either, and they didn't renew the WWE deal. I just don't. After that, like back to back, I don't really see them getting back in the combat sports space. However, FS1, they get. What's that?
It's a different company though.
Yeah. But I just, FS1, what they typically show like in prime time, like throughout the week, it's reruns of like college football from over the weekend. They get, and they got some money, right? They have baseball rights. They have rights to other big sports. They have rights for college football on the weekends and stuff like that. I think FS1 could be a landing spot for any pro wrestling company. I actually was just like in my head on Brace for Impact, talking shop about, places that TNA should, that could potentially, wind up. And I was like, FS1, I think FS1 would be, pretty interesting there if something were to happen and they get pushed out of a WBD. But let's go back to the Meltzer report real quick.
Here's another one. What about FX? Because Disney's still in discussions for Raw for FX. So I mean, FX is still right.
Yeah. So right here it says analysts believe that NBCU for USA, Disney, FX, Amazon Prime, and WBD were all potential suitors. So now that doesn't mean that one of those places are going to, other than WBD, clearly, that just because they're in the market for Raw, that doesn't mean they would be in the market for a secondary brand. And a lot of these people just know WWE as the big brand. However, I don't think it's unreasonable to think they would. Like, why not? Why not give them a shot? You pay a fraction of the cost. You'll probably get, not the same ad rates, but you'll do much better. And the ratings, the demo rating is probably going to be pretty close if you bring them over. I would say, yeah, absolutely. But, it's like, again, we're talking about suits here, and they like big name brands, right? That's just kind of these type of people. So I'd hope that they would actually entertain, AEW. I think AEW would do well on FX if they were to bring that over.
We have this idea that suits are stupid, right? And everybody says it. Well, executives are just dumb. Like, we always make that assumption. And to be honest, a lot of them aren't. Like, a lot of them are going to do their research. And you look at like AEW, what it does is significantly higher than anything on FS1, pretty much, because there's not like a major college football game or something like that. Higher than anything on FX, higher than anything on most channels, right? The reason why WCW died was they killed it so WWE would buy it. That was on purpose.
Yeah.
That whole thing was done specifically so they could unload it to Vince. That's what they wanted to do. It could have survived somewhere else. They chose for it not to. Right? And let's look at another thing. David Headley in the chat has brought this up. And this is something that I mentioned. And some friends of ours have pushed back at me on this. How much of this is just Punk?
Just hold on. Which comment here? I'm trying to pull up.
He's got a bunch of them saying Punk is the vengeance of Punk, because Sean Ross Sapp pretty much said that he got a call from Punk. He essentially outed Punk as a source. And we always talk about the Punk camp. Dude, we talk to people who talk to the Punk camp. It's Punk.
Yeah.
CM Punk. CM Punk's Eddie Gilbert, right? CM Punk is Paul Heyman. CM Punk calls these guys and tells them what he wants them to say. And like little lemmings, we all do his bidding, right? There was
CM Punk, OG Paul Heyman guy, right?
Yeah, OG Paul Heyman guy. Paul Heyman, OG Eddie Gilbert guy, right?
Yeah.
This goes back, right? Every time CM Punk does this, he steers the conversation. Now, do I believe that they're talking now because of him? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do I think that Punk is trying to go out of his way to destroy it, to like fuck AEW over? Do I think Punk is trying to fuck the guy over who brought him back into wrestling, who made him a thing again, who did all the hard work, as our boss Joe Lanza pointed out? Yeah.
That was a great quote by Joe, by the way, in the Discord. Yeah.
What do you remember what it was off the top of your head for the people that aren't?
Yeah, he said AEW did all the dirty work to bring Punk back, but Tony couldn't command enough respect to keep him, and now it looks like Raw might end up reaping the benefits, and that is so freaking true. So freaking true. There, Joe Lanza says things way better than we do. That's why they're so successful.
Oh yeah, they're great. That's why we're lucky to be on that network. That's the truth. Like, And the problem is Tony is such a fan of Punk, and Punk clearly had no respect for him, right? But I'm not 100 so sure how like some of these elite guys feel about Tony either, right? Tony signed them all to real big deals, and let's be honest, you watched Dynamite last night? I caught the Kenny Omega thing like really turned me off to most of the show. I'd never seen him put in such half-ass lazy work in my life. And the Bucks are trying to do this whole little Bucks camp, passive aggressive CM Punk thing right now. Like these are guys that should be like, you should be like batting down the hatches. We need you guys to step up right now. And the fucking elite are nowhere to be found, with the exception of Hangman Page, who's now awesome again.
Yeah, he was doing some of the best work of his career.
For sure. Like,
yeah.
I think that we need to keep like, do I think it'd be smart of WBD to try to get a better deal for themselves for AEW? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do I think there could be mostly smoke to this fire? Yeah, I think it could be a lot of smoke. Do I think that CM Punk is behind all this pulling the strings? I do. Yeah, I do. Because Nick Hausman's the one. Nick Hausman said the vibes. This is my favorite quote because he's a fucking moron. And I think that if I ever saw him in the street, I'd say, "You're a dumb piece of shit." Nick Hausman said, "What?"
He's in Chicago. He's in Chicago, man. So you might run
into I live in the sticks. I'm never in Chicago. Like, but I mean, this guy's like this goes, well, the vibes are that Warner will cut AEW. The vibes where? The vibes in AEW? The vibes in WWE? Or the vibes that CM Punk told you to say? Because that's all you do is you repeat. You're as bad as Dave Scheer was with Paul Heyman with the lariat. Right? That's what Nick Hausman is now. He's Punk's house organ. Like, and it's a pathetic existence, to be quite frank.
Yeah. Hausman is a dipshit. And you know what? We have lots of friends in the media. Dude, one time we do. Well, some of them hate us, but some of them really like us. It's so funny. And I'll tell you after this podcast is over, when we do in between overtime, I forgot to tell you this a long time ago. One time we were making fun of Hausman, and I go, Nick Hausman, dipshit. Like, and then I just said some report that he put out. I don't even remember what the report was. I got a text the next day from a pretty prominent guy on the West Coast, shot me a text. He's like, dude, I was howling. And he said, I was at WrestleMania with that guy, and we were in the press box, and he could not have been a bigger douche. And I was like, thank you for backing me up on. I can't believe I forgot to tell you that. But
is this a mutual friend of ours?
Yes.
Oh,
I'll tell you who it is. I'll tell you who it is after the show.
Tell me after. Yeah, he's a dork.
Yeah.
Like, and this is the thing. It's like everything. I'm so tired. And I love Dave, but the vague tweeting this week. Big things are happening. Wink, wink. And this is why you're one of my best friends in the whole world. Is when you just start randomly retweeting people for years worth of vague posting from random wrestling people. I was like, this is why Mike Gilbert is the best. Dude, I had
everybody watching now, everybody listening. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to go to go to Brian Alvarez, and then just search on his name in the search tab for Brian Alvarez and search Buckle Up. There's quite a few. And then go to Sean Ross Sapp and just put in the eyeball emojis, and it's like pages of him just vague tweeting. Like, oh, you better, sign up today. Look, and that's great promotion. I get it. I just don't like that. So I'm never going to do that for us. If I'm only going to do it to fuck with people. I'm not actually going to do it to just try to trick people into signing up for our Patreon.
Do you remember how mad those guys got when I said that they were fucking jokes? The wrestling media is a big joke. It's because of shit like that. Yeah. Just tweeting, ooh, big eyes. Like, man up, say something. Have a fucking set. Have a fucking set. Right? Dude. Just say, hey, I'm hearing some things about this. More to come later. Like, I hate vague posting. I hate it. I cannot wait till contract season is over. It is so miserable. I haven't listened to a podcast. The only wrestling podcast listening this week is Between the Sheets, because they were talking about 1990. Like, I'm so over all of this conversation. I just want it to be done. Want it to be done.
Dude, our buddy Ibu of Wrestle Purists, he did a vague tweet making fun of all the vague tweeters, and they got shopped around as news. And he was like, "Guys, I was making fun of the vague tweeters," and it was like so over the top vague. It was so great. He's a genius.
Was. I like Ibu. He makes me laugh. Like, I don't know, man. It's just I'm so tired of feeling like miserable about my hobby. Right? Yeah. I'm so over it. Like, it's just it sucks. It's a sucky place to be in right now.
Yeah. And if you don't believe that Punk is the one that's going to get WWE this big $1 billion TV deal with WBD, just ask him. He'll probably tell you one day. Because
on camera.
yeah, yeah. Hey, before we get to our next topic, I just want to give a shout out to everybody in the chat. David Hadley, what's up, man? Thank you for being here. Animal Instinct said, do you think if Trump showed up in WWE like he did in UFC recently, certain wrestlers would protest and ask for their release? Guy, they go to Saudi Arabia, my brother. They would look, some of them would be privately mad, but they would still collect that paycheck. Look, and guys, I'm telling you right now, and this is for everybody, then any of us included. There's a lot of times where adults, we get faced with a crossroads in our lives where we got to choose between money and dignity. And oftentimes we choose money because we got bills to pay, we got families to feed. And really, it's like if some guy that we don't like shows up at an event that we're working at, it's like I'm getting paid the same no matter what. I don't really think anybody's going to care. A lot of UFC fighters didn't vote for that guy, and they don't give a shit as long as they're getting paid. So that's just the way that's just the way real world works. Sorry, guys. Mm-hmm. Transferring heat. Tony Khan said 2.5 years ago, the AEW was in their 96, 97 WCW phase. I guess we're in the WCW 2000 phase, maybe 99. I'm as somebody that studies WCW history. I don't know. I don't know about the 2000.
2000 the TV was unwatchable. AEW TV this week. We were talking about this before the show. I'll be honest with you. I've been really low on watching AEW TV, and the stuff I've seen I've enjoyed, but I haven't watched Rampage. I haven't watched Collision. We're in wrestling season right now. Last night I came home from early, and my kid's got pneumonia right now, so no wrestling practice for him. So I came home, I was going to watch Dynamite early, but the wife was watching. My wife watches these Survivor shows, not like Survivor, but like these shows about these people that go in the wilderness and like have to just stand there for like a month, and they get all this money. It's the stupidest shit in the world, but she loves it. So she was watching one of these things. So I didn't get to watch Dynamite till 10 o'clock at night on the West Coast feed, and I was done at 11. I was just so tired. I couldn't watch it. Like they burned me out so bad from the early part of the fall that I'm struggling to be invested right now. And a lot of this discourse too is not helping, to be quite frank.
You know what's funny is, and I have a similar story. So last night I put the kid down, and I usually, it doesn't really AEW. I have the West Coast feed here too. So the West Coast feed starts at like 6 p.m., but I record it, and then I typically will watch it after my kid goes to sleep. I put it on at 9 o'clock. I passed out at 9:15, but that's not an indictment of AEW. That's an indictment of me being 40 and tired.
Yeah, same, man.
Yeah.
It's busy time of year, and I've loved what I've seen from that. I know I have to watch Moxley Swerve. I heard it was awesome. I know I got to go back and watch it. But watching Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega die on a promo, I was just like, I can't do this. I'm going to bed. Like that absolutely broke me. And I heard someone say that was like Chris Hamza in our Slack. He goes, "This is like that's like an old Dynamite bad segment." Where it just like went completely off the rails, right. And but it was like
Swerve saved the whole thing apparently. So
what's that?
Mox and Swerve was the main event. Apparently saved the whole thing. I'm really looking forward to watching that. I'm gonna watch it.
I'm gonna at some point. I need to sit down and just like binge all these C2 matches because it's getting a lot of love actually. But again, this MJF stuff makes me hate life.
Well, we're going to get to the MJF here in just a sec. I just want to give more shout outs. We got a lot of people in the chat tonight. IO Productions. Thank you, buddy. Nick Hausman also on NWA's ass of late. Billy Corgan's from Chicago, by the way, if you want to know where Nick Hausman gets his sources from NWA.
It's from Elk Grove, same place as Sky Blue, coincidentally.
Oh, there you go. King of North in the chat. He checked in on JD earlier in the night, and he said, I might have some friends. Well, I don't know about that.
Couple, 2 trees.
Enemies. Got a lot of enemies. And of course, Josiah, our buddy Josiah in the chat says the C2 is what AEW is good at.
Yeah, wrestling.
I think C2 has really kind of rekindled a lot of people's love of what AEW said that they were always going to be. Now we still get the silliness. We're still getting Timeless Tony, bad Jericho promos, Roddy Strong, MJF skits. But then they give us a C2, and it's like, oh shit, man, we're still getting C2. It's like, and like, thankfully, I have it on my DVR. I can just skip through the bad stuff, so that's cool.
fair, we didn't get any skits last night. Like, you got the opening promo, which is very much like a Raw, like 1999 opening, like 20-minute promo that leads to a match. But the match was pretty kick-ass. And like Samoa Joe with the microphone the Samoa Joe Page stuff was fucking great. Right? Like the two of them have like, do you agree with me? Like they're just, the chemistry between the two of them was like really good. And Hangman has felt motivated and like, I liked it.
Yeah, well, I can't really speak on it because, like I said, I passed out so early last night. I have not been.
That opened the show. It was actually pretty good. And then Strong came out and it was bad. He's trying to tell. Oh, should we do this now? Roderick Strong was trying to tell everybody who the devil is.
Yeah. So let's go to that. We're not going to give away any spoilers. I forgot to tell you, no spoilers, JD.
Oh, but we put it in the notes.
I know I didn't put in the notes for everybody else to read, but,
me, so I assume that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, no, we could talk a little bit about it. But I think you and I have been saying for weeks we think we have a pretty good idea, and I think it was pretty damn well confirmed.
Right.
Yeah. So Sean Ross Sapp put out a report today on Fightful Select that at World's End the devil is going to be revealed, and I think a lot of people are saying, and we have a good buddy that also said this, and I've seen it in several other places, that the person that we thought it was going to be all along, it's most likely going to be that person, Adam Cole. That's what we're thinking.
Cole, baby.
Yeah.
And then do we do the whole thing? Just say who we heard?
No, I don't think we should give away the rest of it. Yeah. That'd be too obvious where we got it. Hey,
if you watch the show, you know who it is. Like there's no mystery. Like, yeah, King of the North said Real Glass. Yeah. No. Actually, no. No, surprisingly. Yeah, I don't know. Is this if it's Adam Cole, is it Black Scorpion level? Have we hit the Black Scorpion?
No, you know what I'm gonna say, and I got some old school TNA fans in the chat tonight. This whole storyline is very reminiscent of Aces and Eights.
Yes, you're right.
You know what I mean? Because Bully Ray, before he joined, and I just did an Aces and Eights retrospective. Go to the Mike and JD Show YouTube channel. I got that and the Main Event Mafia retrospective on there now. So the Bully Ray thing, where he was actually fighting against them for a little bit, and to include his brother, and then his brother turns on him. He fights his own brother, and then eventually it gets revealed that he was the leader the whole time. Right now, Adam Cole has been helping MJF win matches, been his tag team partner. Yada yada yada. While the devil has been in existence this whole time, and then he's going to get revealed as being the devil, despite all this other stuff. So,
oh, I had the wrong one. King of the North says, "Say what you heard, cowards." Well, I would have to call him with it. Like, watch the show. They're telling you who it is.
Yeah. Okay. King of the North. If you're gonna call me a coward, I can't let that happen. I'm a war hero. God damn it.
You can say that shit because that's actually true.
No,
no, you are. You
know what's funny is on Thanksgiving, my cousin's a big Seahawks fan, and the 49ers just beat down the Seahawks on Thanksgiving. So I FaceTime my cousin, and he wouldn't answer the phone. So I FaceTime my other cousin who was watching the show with him, or watching the game with him, and he handed him the phone, and he starts cussing me out. I was like, "Hey, can you believe that? He's cussing me out. I'm a war hero. What are you doing?"
Was this Joe? Idiot. You were cussing out? It was a different cousin.
It was a different cousin. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's funny.
Yeah. Different cousin. Joe's a 49er fan. He has class.
That's a pretty harsh trump card to pull out. Like, I'm a war hero. You can't say that to me.
Yeah. No, they get a kick out of that when I say it because they know I'm full of crap. But so look, I heard Adam Cole, Kingdom, Roddy Strong, and the wild card would be a very big man with a ponytail. So there you go. Who
says he's gonna beat up Max every week on the show?
Yeah. So I mean, the obvious is what we're thinking, right? Now, Kyle O'Reilly. I didn't hear about Kyle O'Reilly. I don't even know if that guy's ever wrestling again. But
that would be that guy's got more to worry about right now than angles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to get back to normal. So let's pump the brakes on Kyle O'Reilly stuff for a bit. But yeah, the guys that have been directly involved in this the entire fucking time.
Yeah. But foreshadowing, and I think it's pretty good storytelling, but the problem is that I think it's just been drug on too long. I lost interest, right? And then the
Way
skits were
more.
bad. But if you like outline the story, right? Like the outline of the story, I think is pretty good. But now I think it's ultimately going to wind up being Aces and Eights level, which Aces and Eights too, like at the time, so a lot of the acting was pretty bad, but the story itself was pretty good. I thought the Bully Ray reveal was pretty good, but they didn't really have an end game to that story. And here's the funny thing about Aces and Eights, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here because I already went down it, but I got Josiah in the chat, so I know he's going to fill me on this one. They were building to a match with Hulk Hogan in 2013 that they can never have. So Hulk Hogan leaves. They end up pivoting to AJ Styles, and then he wins a title, but he doesn't have a contract with them. So then he just gives the title back and then comes back. He does a title versus title match with Nick Aldis, and then he heads to New Japan, has the run of his career. Right. So like they never, so I'm not saying that it's going to end like Aces and Eights. I'm just saying right now, the whole vibe, the AEW is about vibes, right? Nick Houseman, shout out. Like the whole vibe of it, the ninja costumes, the masks, everything to me reeks Aces and Eights.
Can I be honest with you though? Like after we did that, and Aces and Eights became Sons of Anarchy, right? Because they're like
Sons of Anarchy the whole time.
Yeah, but I mean, like there were masks and stuff like that, and then they just were Sons of Anarchy, except with worse writing. Like
even the theme song was a direct rip-off of Sons of Anarchy. Yeah.
Dale Oliver's one of the greatest rip-off artists of all time.
Yes.
Legend. Like Jimmy Hart level. Legend. I really like the Aces and Eights stuff with AJ. I kind of like that whole storyline. Like up till the reveal where he like, because that kind of, this is the Aces and Eights is where we got like the current AJ Styles. Like what AJ Styles is now started in the Aces and Eights story. So for me, I don't know. I don't hate Aces and Eights as much as everybody else. I liked your audio this week on Aces and Eights, Mike. I thought it was good. I don't know. Like I think Aces and Eights is better than this, to be honest with you.
Hold on. Wait, 41-20. I got to clip that.
I do. Like when this first happened, I was intrigued, but that was in like August. Like it's December, man. And like whenever Excalibur starts talking about the devil, I want to just throw things at my fucking TV. He has just wasted so much of his credibility talking about this whole thing. I fucking hate it so much. I just want to, I mean, like in the grand scheme of things, I do think Aces and Eights is better than the Black Scorpion. And I think this is leaning more Scorpion than Aces and Eights. Chat, am I wrong? Am I wrong on this?
Well, we'll go to the chat here. Just a sec. King of the North. I think this is a good question. Will they have draft shirts underneath the ninja costumes?
Matt Taven will.
Yeah. Yeah. And then less is more from IO. And then Josiah says it's not a coincidence that it feels TNA when they have TNA riders in Tony's ear now. Yes. I mean Sanjay Dutt's like right there, and so.
The most unrealistic part of that whole storyline was Bully Ray marrying Brooke Hogan. But then again, he was with Velvet for a long time, so maybe
I really liked that storyline.
Get the fuck out of here! That
storyline
you like? Come on,
dude. And then I just rewatched the whole like video that they put on their YouTube. They did like a super thing, and I was like, I remember liking it, and I was like, I still kind of like it. I still kind of like it. And then like when he turns heel, he's like, I never loved you. I used you. I was like, Bully. Look, say what you want about Bully Ray, but he is a very good heel.
Yeah. He's great at being an asshole. That's why he does it every week on what's that shitty show he has, Cheap Heat or whatever. What's that show called they have?
Busted Open.
I can't remember. Some stupid wrestling term. Like he's good at that stuff. Like he's very good at being unlikable.
Yeah. No, he's very good. So real quick, Ibu again. I don't know if it was Ibu, but it was Russell Puris. So you guys correct me on that. I don't want to attribute this to Ibu himself, but Russell Puris put out a report that looks like people in AEW are pushing Tony Khan hard to sign one Dolph Ziggler. Is that a good idea? JD, are you there?
No.
Okay. So the people listening on their podcast cannot see your face.
I'm rubbing my eyes because I mean, like, this is the problem we have. And the thing is, wrestling people they're like good people in some ways, man. Like you take care of your own, like you love your brothers. Like this guy's good. He could have good matches. And they don't think like we think. These are the same people tell you how amazing Randy Orton is. And I'll tell you, I can't think of one cool. I cannot watch Randy Orton matches. I just think they're boring. This is that mentality. I do not want to see Nick Nemeth in a promotion that I watch regularly. I've hated that guy since 1999. Fuck him. Kent State motherfucker. I know. I don't want to.
I think that's the bigger issue at play here. He's Kent State, and there's still a resentment.
Fuck him. I can't stand him. No,
here's what I think. I think some of our friends are doing this, by the way. I think people need to stop snitching on guys like Johnny Elite and Sean Spears and all these other former WWE guys that are in their 40s right now that have gone to AEW and are hiding. They're hiding and they're collecting mailbox money and they're doing absolute dick, because that's exactly the type of deal that Dolph Ziggler wants. He wants to go over there and get some of that con money and do absolutely nothing. You're not going to hear him complaining about his push. You're not going to hear him complaining about not getting enough dates. He just wants to go over there and collect money. Like that's all you're going to get out of that guy. And if that's the kind of guy that Tony Khan wants, just like a veteran that you can throw on Rampage, that might win a battle royal, like one of 15 battle royals next year. He might win one. He might challenge for the TNT title. He do some jobs on a Ring of Honor. That's all you're going to get out of that guy. He is not going to be helpful to your promotion. And look, and I don't even think he's a bad wrestler. I think he's a good wrestler. I think he's got charisma. I think he can cut a promo. I don't think he adds anything to AEW at all.
We have 12 of them.
Yeah.
Like there's 12 guys that are younger and better than Nick Nemeth right now. Like what value does he have? Sean Spears is still under contract, for God's sakes.
Mm-hmm.
Like why? Well, I mean, I hope they don't sign him. That would be a huge mistake.
It would be Jacksonville Dixie. That's what that signing would be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now TNA, I'm on the fence about that for TNA. I'm leaning towards no, because again, I don't think that he's really a guy that will sell tickets. But I think the TNA fan base, like their hardcores, would see that as a win and they would get excited about it. Right? You're not going to bring any new fans, because as we already know, that when somebody leaves WWE, they don't come with the wrestler. They just forget they exist until they pop up in the Royal Rumble 3 years later. Right? That's how that usually works. And you know for a fact that Dolph is just going to go to a lesser promotion, collect some mailbox money, and then he just can't wait to get back to WWE. That's what you're going to get out of him. But I think that the TNA fans would embrace him, would see him as a big star, and they would get excited for him. Mike wouldn't, but I think that they would. So I think my opinion changes depending on the promotion. I think that would be fine.
Ultimately, Dolph Ziggler talks about how much, or Nick Nemeth talks about how much he doesn't like pro wrestling anymore. He doesn't watch pro wrestling. He's super disengaged with the product. I don't want that guy. I don't want people that aren't excited to go to work every day. I don't want people that don't want to fight tooth and nail for a spot. No, I don't want that guy. It's funny you talk about the Rumble. Remember that argument I had with Scott last week? Our buddy Scott, who hosts the Rap for the Fight Game, talked about how it would be great if Okada signed with WWE and showed up in the Rumble. And I went just fucking ape shit about how it would be the most disrespectful thing humanly possible to put Kazuchika Okada in the Royal Rumble and have him get tossed by fucking Otis or something like that after about 12 minutes. And he's like, oh man, that should be a great thing in WWE. And I'm like, this is a fucking generational player in Japan. You don't know. Like I had an epic meltdown in the group chat because I just hate WWE fan think. Like it makes me.
They don't watch anything outside of WWE. They follow stuff on the internet. They see clips, but they don't follow it. So they don't know that Okada is important. They have no idea, right? And that was the exact. And we love Scott. Scott,
he should know better. I know he should know better. Like that's what made me so mad that he was like, oh, it's an honor to be in the Rumble and get tossed out. Like what? What? Yeah. Like. What? I couldn't. This is why if AEW dies, man, I'm just gonna come on here and shit on everything. I will just be the most negative podcaster of all time.
Well, you know what? I think we're going to end it on a high note. So I want everybody to go to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. I posted several shows over the weekend. I did 2 Brace for Impact shows, and I did a new show as well earlier this week. I think I did like 1 or 2. Now that I think I'm trying to remember.
You're a machine.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been off work all week, just icing my crotch. So I got a lot. I did a lot of clips for the YouTube, like doing pretty decent numbers there. We got into a fight with Jim Valley over one of them. Jim Valley.
Yeah, Jim Valley took a shit on us this week. What the fuck was up with that?
I think he was trying to shit on Andrade, but when he said, like, he tweeted our clip, and he said he was saying like who cares if Andrade leaves, but when he just said who cares and then said Andrade isn't a draw, and I'm like, well, that's what we said in the video, dude. But when he says who cares, it's like you're actively telling people not to click on our link.
No, he said no disrespect to Voices of Wrestling. And I'm like, did you watch the video? Because we said the same fucking thing. And he's like, no, I didn't watch the video. Last time I watched one of your videos, Big Time does. Well, last time I watched one of your videos, it said it turned out we were in a feud. And both of us were like, what the fuck are you talking about? I guess we are now, motherfucker.
You know what, man? I have when he was going through his health, I have a Jim Valley t-shirt. I almost wore it. So do I. Yeah, I almost wore it tonight, but I was like, I don't want to increase it. I think maybe he was just being a little crabby, which I think he has been lately. So I don't want to stick on that. I do want to advertise the patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. Got it. I got some more content coming out this weekend. JD and I are going to do right after this show is over. We're actually going to do an overtime talking about our favorite Christmas movies. So last week we did a movie review of Godzilla -1. We'll hear JD and I talk about Christmas movies, and then we'll be right back here next week where we're going to talk some more news, and then we're also going to have WCCW Star Wars 1983. We're going to do a watch along of that. So that obviously will not be making it to YouTube because we will get copyright strikes, not only because of the video, but because I have a copy that has the great video quality with the actual like rock music that they were using. We're gonna get to hear Tom Sawyer and Stranglehold live on Patreon next week. So everybody tune in for that. So we're gonna record that next week and we're gonna drop it at some point. So lots of stuff to talk about, lots of stuff to get into. And if you're listening to us right now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, stay tuned after this show because I'm going to tack on a Brace for Impact double shot that I did over the weekend where I recapped AAA Ultra Clash and I recapped Final Resolution, the final ever premium live event from Impact Wrestling before they had and rename themselves and rebrand to TNA Wrestling. They did a show over the weekend. Me and Josiah and probably 4 other people are the only ones that watched the show. It was in a little studio in Toronto, but it was a pretty good show, and I got a chance to recap that. So if you're watching this and you're a TNA fan, if you're listening to this and you're a Voices of Wrestling Network guy and you're not really getting your TNA fix, well, I'm going to hook you up. I'm going to tack on my latest 2 episodes right here at the end of this podcast. So go ahead and check that out. And then I'm actually going to release the audio on our YouTube channel this coming up weekend. Try to get people excited for some TNA. So we're going to close here. We got some positive stories coming out of the world of TNA. JD has not had a chance to comment on these publicly, so I'm going to give JD an opportunity. So first, I think the first guy I want to talk about is they signed Trent Seven over the weekend. UK guy, popular guy, got released by WWE. He was a WWE NXT UK guy, tag team champion there for a while. Pretty good talent, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, was he was he one of those guys that was kind of questionable during the speaking out thing? I feel like maybe he was, but I'm not 100% sure.
Dude, I'll be honest, Eddie, I don't have a running log of everybody's bad deeds. I just don't pay attention. I don't care about that stuff anymore.
Me neither. Too many. Well, I remember when he showed up in AEW, we were in one of our Discords and people were like upset, and I couldn't remember why.
Maybe he just looks like Marty Scurll. Maybe that's the problem.
He does look kind of like Marty Scurll. He is British. Yeah. They're all the same.
Yeah,
that's fine. Honestly, he's a talented wrestler. I think he'll have really good matches in this company. I don't love his character work, but I think that he'll be a mid-card guy here and he'll be fine. Yeah. It's a good pickup.
Yeah. I think that's a nice signing. And talk about, we brought up last week and WWE possibly signing Okada. Well, one of the reasons why why he shouldn't go there, Kushida has now signed with TNA, which actually shocked me. I thought that he was just going to be a New Japan guy, even though New Japan doesn't do anything with him and don't push him. I just figured he was back in New Japan and doing his thing there. But actually, TNA, Scott D'Amore really likes him. Scott D'Amore trained him, and actually, when he is in TNA, they push him. So they actually signed him to a full-time deal, which is pretty cool.
He's not a New Japan Trueborn, right? He got pushed there, but they never were going to push him out of the junior division because he's small. And WWE was a failure, and he's come back to New Japan. He really hasn't even been a guy in New Japan.
Mm-mm.
Like, this is a great pickup, I think, for TNA. I think he'll get a nice refresher on reality. Alex Shelley's there. You can still do time machine stuff, or I forget, what did they call it when Kushida teamed with the Guns? What was their trio's name? Do you remember?
I thought it was just Time Machine Guns.
Was that what it was?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's good. I like this pickup, actually. I think he's a great guy for the X division immediately.
Yeah, well, and he actually headlined Rebellion last year, him versus Macklin, and that was a really good main event match. I thought they killed it. Hold on.
Yeah.
Fact checkers in the chat. Hold on. John Muse said it was just Time Machine. Well, they should have called it Time Machine Guns.
That's what we said. We said it should be Time Machine Guns, and they just went with Time Machine. And we said they were wrong. Time Machine Guns is way better. Yeah, I stand by that. Yeah, good pickup. Good pickup.
Yeah,
Great for the X division.
I really like it. He can do X Division tag teams, and in TNA they can push him to the he can challenge for the world title, and nobody will bat an eye. Look, not a guy that's gonna sell you a lot of tickets or pay-per-views, but he's a guy that's gonna have really good matches, and he's just more added veteran depth with a little bit of notoriety that I think people are gonna get excited about. They re-signed Eddie Edwards, guys. Eddie Edwards re-signs every 18 months. No big deal there. But something that is exciting is Vikingo not signing here, but he's actually going to be at Hard to Kill in Las Vegas on January 13th for the pay-per-view. And he's going to be there the night after, January 14th, at the Snake Eyes TV tapings alongside Ospreay and Okada. We're going to get a Vikingo match at those tapings. I think whoever's going to those tapings is going to hell of a show.
Yeah, no shit. If you have a chance to watch El Hijo del Vikingo work, take advantage of that. I got to see him in Chicago once, and it was pretty damn impressive. This dude is incredible. He's absolutely incredible. Watch him now, because who knows how long he can keep moving at this speed.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, like I said, stay tuned. If you're listening to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, stay tuned, because we got some more TNA talk coming your way right after this. And if you want some more, I actually got a show coming out this weekend. I think I'm gonna talk some Joker Sting, talk to all the news, and do another retrospective. So that's gonna be fun. So head over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show to get your timely, up to date and fresh TNA content as we start getting geared towards the Hard to Kill pay-per-view and the TV tapings after that, the big rebrand of TNA. I'm covering TNA every single week coming up in 2024. So stay tuned for that. Please become a subscriber today. And until next week, sorry about that. And until next week, I'm gonna do the BFI. Since we're plugging BFI, I'm gonna do the BFI outro. Let's do it. BFI outro. And until next week, mahalo.